Hey everyone, Redmond here from the channel Oversea Ghost. The story I'm sharing today comes from Thailand. It starts with a family trip many years ago. A young boy was thrilled to be visiting a waterfall in another province for the first time. After a delayed start, the family arrived late, spent the night nearby, and the next day, the kids finally got to play in the water. But while playing, something happened to the youngest boy in the deep part of the pool. Something that seemed to go beyond a simple accident. At the time, the family thought it was an isolated, frightening event tied to that one place. But what began at that waterfall didn't stay there. It all began when he was just 11 years old. His family had planned an overnight trip to a waterfall, intending to stay for 2 days and 1 night. As a child, he was thrilled about the prospect because he absolutely loved playing in the water, whether it was a waterfall or the ocean. Adding to his excitement was the fact that they were traveling to a province he had never visited before. However, on the day of the trip, things didn't go according to plan. His parents had intended to leave early in the morning so they could arrive by late morning and start swimming immediately. But when the time came, they faced a major issue. His father's car refused to start. No matter what his father tried, the engine remained dead. Eventually, they had to call a tow truck to haul it to a garage for repairs. By the time the car was finally fixed, it was already between 3 and 4 p.m. Once the car was brought back home, the family finally set off. There were 5 of them in total: his father, his mother, his older brother, let's call him Arthur, his older sister, whom we'll call Alice, and himself, the youngest. The drive took several hours, and by the time they reached the district where the waterfall was located, the light was already fading. Since the waterfall was nestled in a dense forest with heavy tree cover, it would have been dim even in the mid-afternoon. Arriving near 5 p.m. meant the sky was already growing dark. Consequently, the family decided to find accommodation nearby rather than heading straight to the water. Their plan was to rest for the night and take the kids to play at the waterfall the next morning. After driving around, they found a place to stay that was quite close to their destination. They checked in, cooked a simple meal, ate, showered, and went to bed. That night, he slept soundly without any strange occurrences. The next morning, the family packed up and headed to the waterfall, which was only a short drive away. When he finally saw the water, he was overjoyed, rushing down to splash around with his siblings immediately. His parents sat nearby, eating and keeping an eye on them. At first, he stuck to the shallow end, but when he saw Arthur and Alice wading out further, he grabbed an inner tube and slowly kicked his legs, floating out to join them. After playing for a while, he became completely absorbed in the fun. Clinging to his inner tube, he began to drift further and further away from his siblings. He was still looking at them and calling their names, so he didn't feel like he was too far away. Arthur and Alice were busy swimming and diving, and for a moment they weren't looking in his direction. In reality, he had drifted many arms' lengths away from them. As he floated further out, he suddenly felt something grab his ankle. It felt unmistakably like a cold human hand gripping his leg. Before he could even process what was happening, he was violently yanked underwater. The force was so sudden and powerful that his hand slipped off the inner tube, and he was completely submerged. It happened so fast he didn't even have time to scream for help. Suddenly, he found himself deep underwater. Shocked, he opened his eyes and accidentally inhaled water. For a fleeting moment, he felt suspended between life and death. As he choked on the water, he saw the most terrifying image of his life. Looking down toward his ankle where he felt the pulling sensation, he saw a pair of pale white hands gripping him. Looking past the hands, he saw the face of a woman, pale and gaunt. Her eyes were completely pitch black with no whites at all, and she was dressed in black. She stared intently at him, seemingly trying to drag him deeper into the depths. Although her mouth didn't move, a chilling voice echoed in his head as he struggled to surface. It said, "I'm going to take you to live with me." He was terrified. He thrashed his arms and legs, trying desperately to ascend, but it felt useless. His body continued to sink, water rushing into his lungs. He had reached his absolute limit. A few moments longer and he would have died. But just as his strength was failing, Arthur and Alice noticed he was missing from his inner tube. They quickly swam over and dove down, reaching him just in time. Alice actually saw the moment he went under. When she saw bubbles rising to the surface as he struggled, she immediately alerted Arthur to go help. The entire event didn't last long in reality, but to him it felt like an eternity, especially the moments submerged with that female ghost. It felt like 10 minutes, playing out like a slow-motion scene from a horror movie where a spirit drags a victim underwater. Alice, however, confirmed it happened in a flash. As soon as the bubbles appeared, she called for Arthur. After dragging him ashore, his siblings rushed him to their parents, shouting that he had drowned. His parents were horrified by his condition. He had nearly drowned. His body was limp and he could barely speak. When his mother asked how it happened and if he had let go of the tube, he managed to answer, "No, Mom, someone pulled my leg down. It was a female ghost." At first, his parents didn't believe him. They assumed he had slipped off the tube due to his own carelessness and was inventing a story to avoid being scolded, as they had strictly warned him against playing in the deep water. But then he showed them his leg. There was a distinct red mark around his ankle, a bruise that looked exactly like a tight grip. When they compared his legs, the difference was undeniable. One was normal, but the other bore a red imprint that looked exactly like a hand. Upon seeing this, the mood shifted instantly. No one wanted to play or relax anymore. His parents quickly packed up their belongings, canceled the rest of the trip, and drove him home immediately. The drive back was incredibly tense. He felt guilty for telling them, knowing he had ruined the trip he had wanted so badly. But it had been a matter of life and death. If he hadn't spoken up, no one would have believed the danger he was in. The car was completely silent after they left the waterfall. No one dared to mention the ghost that had pulled him down. The very next day, his parents took him to a temple to make merit, receive a holy water blessing, and have a monk perform a wrist-tying ceremony for protection. After returning home, he believed he was safe and vowed never to return to that waterfall. He thought the ordeal was over, but he was wrong. Everything was peaceful for 4 years after the incident. By then, he was a 15-year-old boy nearing the end of 9th grade. He was going through a rebellious phase, spending a lot of time with friends and often coming home late or staying out all night. One night, while sleeping over at a friend's house, he dreamed of a woman. Her hair covered her face and she wore a long black skirt. She walked up to him and said, "I found you. I'm going to take you to live with me." She grabbed his hand and tried to pull him away, causing him to wake up with a violent jolt. He sat up, looking around the room in paranoia. At that moment, he rationalized that the ghost in his dream must belong to his friend's house. He didn't connect it to the waterfall spirit at all. He immediately woke his friend and said, "Hey, I'm going back to my house tonight." His friend was confused, asking, "It's so late, why go back now? Just sleep a bit longer, it'll be morning soon." He didn't listen. He packed his things and rode his motorcycle home right then at around 3 a.m. He didn't care about the hour. He just wanted to escape that house, convinced the ghost was there. He didn't even consider that the route home might be desolate. Since his home was on the outskirts of the city, the road passed through forested areas with few houses. As he sped past the woods, nearing his home, he saw someone walking on the side of the road, a woman in a long skirt, walking alone. It looked exactly like the woman in his dream. Uncertain if she was human or a ghost, he accelerated, speeding past her. But after riding a short distance further, he saw the exact same woman walking ahead of him again. Now he knew for certain she was not human. He tore away, terrified, to look at the side of the road until he reached the safety of his house. He quickly prayed and went to bed, but as soon as he fell asleep, he dreamed of the woman in the black dress again. This time, he saw her face clearly. It was pale white with pitch black eyes. She was sitting with her knees pulled up to her chest, nestled between two large boulders. She stared directly at him and spoke in that chilling voice. "I'm going to take you to live with me. I'm going to take you. You have to come with me. You've been running from me for many years." In the dream, he tried to run, but a high-pitched, terrifying laugh followed him. The sound chased him until he was exhausted and couldn't run any further. He woke up drenched in sweat, feeling as physically drained as if he had actually been running. It was 6 a.m. Terrified, he immediately ran to tell his mother. He recounted seeing the woman in his dream at his friend's house, then seeing her on the road and dreaming of her again at home. He realized how lucky he was that she hadn't caused him to crash his motorcycle during the ride home. If she had spooked him then, it could have been fatal. He told his mother it seemed impossible, but a ghost must have followed him home. She asked if he had done anything to offend the spirits recently. He couldn't think of anything. He wasn't doing anything mischievous, mostly just playing games with friends after school. He had no idea where she came from. "I don't know, Mom. I didn't do anything. The first time I saw her was in a dream," he said. His mother suspected it might be a Lompe Lompat, a malevolent spirit carried on the wind. The next day, she took him to the temple to make merit, receive holy water, and get blessings from a monk. After that, the dreams stopped for a while. 3 years passed. He had moved to Bangkok for work when the dreams returned. It was always the same nightmare, the woman in the black dress sitting hunched in a rock crevice, reaching out to pull him. Her voice would repeat, "You're coming to live with me. I'm going to take you with me." The dreams became frequent. Initially scared, he eventually grew used to them. Whenever he had the dream, he would go to the temple to make merit and dedicate it to her. Usually, this worked. After making merit for a ghost, they would disappear. This cycle continued for years. Dream, make merit, peace, repeat. He thought he was doing his duty by her. But eventually, the merit-making seemed to lose its effect. Even after the rituals, the dreams persisted. When he moved back to his birthplace in Phichit province, the dreams intensified. They went from occurring once every few weeks to almost every week. At this point, he decided to ignore it. Since the merit didn't help, he stopped giving the ghost any attention, hoping she would eventually leave. He assumed she was just there to harass him. He was wrong. She was far more dangerous than he realized. Up until then, she had only appeared in dreams, unable to physically harm him. But one night, as he was riding his motorcycle home around midnight on a quiet road, riding at a relaxed pace, everything changed. Suddenly, a woman sprinted directly in front of his motorcycle. He swerved instinctively to avoid her and crashed head-on with a sedan coming from the opposite direction. He heard a deafening crash and then silence. Lying on the ground, numb to the pain, he felt his consciousness slipping away. Just before he blacked out, he distinctly heard a woman's voice whisper, You have to come live with me." He woke up in the hospital with broken bones, unable to move his arms or legs, though fortunately he had no severe internal injuries. During his recovery, he had time to reflect. He realized this was the same ghost from the Waterfall incident when he was 11. Certain of this, he told his mother the entire story again. She was shocked. She had never connected the recent haunting to the drowning all those years ago. Once she understood, his mother began seeking ways to exorcise the spirit while waiting for him to be discharged. Once he was out, she took him to perform intense rituals, making merit, performing life-extending ceremonies, lying in a coffin to cheat death, and visiting famous temples for holy water. She did everything possible. It seemed to work. While recovering at home, the dreams stopped. Eventually, he recovered enough to return to work with his mother in Bangkok, but once there, the woman returned to his dreams. But this dream was different. Instead of staring at him and threatening to take him, the woman sat in the rock crevice hugging her knees with a vacant expression, as if she couldn't see him. Her behavior was bizarre, but he felt a wave of relief. He believed the ghost from the waterfall could no longer touch him. He lived peacefully in Bangkok for about a year until he received terrible news from his sister, Alice, who had moved to Chiang Mai. She had been in a car accident. Over the phone, Alice explained that she and her boyfriend, let's call him David, were driving down a mountain in the rain. They thought the road wasn't too dangerous, so they proceeded. But the car skidded on the slippery surface, the brakes failed, and they crashed into a tree. Alice suffered nerve damage and couldn't walk, while David lost a lung due to severe bruising. When the family visited Alice in the hospital in Chiang Mai, he asked for more details. What Alice and David told him was shocking. The accident hadn't just been caused by the rain. They had crashed because a woman ran in front of their car. David described seeing a woman with long hair covering her face and a long black skirt standing in the rain. He assumed it was a villager waiting for a ride, but she suddenly darted out, forcing him to swerve. He slammed on the brakes in panic. The car lost control on the wet road and hit the tree. Alice added that she had seen the woman standing on the roadside the entire way down the mountain, but hadn't said anything. Even more incredibly, Alice said that when the car crashed and she was thrown, she saw a figure out of her corner of the eye, a woman dressed in white, resembling a nun, pulling her back. This intervention allowed Alice to grab David's arm, saving him from being thrown off the cliff. Then Alice revealed another shocking detail. She had seen the black-clad woman before. A week prior, she had been ordained as a nun at a temple for a short retreat. A senior nun had warned her to keep the windows closed at night and ignore any strange sounds. Alice obeyed, but her roommate complained of the heat and asked to open a window. Reluctantly, Alice agreed. That night, Alice dreamed of a long-haired woman in a black dress standing outside. The woman said, "I'm going to take you as a replacement." Alice argued with her in the dream, but the woman rushed into the room, waking her up. Immediately after waking, Alice heard knocking on the windows, moving from the closed ones towards the open one. Then a pale face appeared at the window before vanishing. When the accident happened a week later, Alice instantly recognized the woman on the road as the ghost from the temple. Hearing this, he asked, was she a long-haired, pale woman with no whites in her eyes, wearing a black dress? Both Alice and David shouted, "Yes, yes, yes!" He realized it was the same spirit. Since she couldn't take him, she had gone after his sister instead. He told them about his own accident and the ghost he had been seeing for years. He advised them to get protective amulets and to perform the life-extending rituals he had done as soon as they left the hospital. After being discharged, Alice and David followed his advice, making merit to drive away the evil. While the haunting seemed to resolve and their lives gradually improved, the physical toll remained. To this day, his sister Alice is still bedridden and unable to walk.
Thank you for joining me for this story. Oversea Ghost is a new channel, and I'm still finding my way. If you have feedback, suggestions for future topics, or a local legend from your own corner of the world, please share it in the comments below. Your input is what will help this channel grow and improve. If you enjoyed this journey into the unexplained, please help support the channel by liking this video, subscribing, and sharing it with someone who loves a good mystery. It truly makes all the difference. Until next time, this is Redmond, signing off. Stay curious and take care.